this being a terrorist attack that was planned would implicate us in failing to adequately secure the consulate, ignoring warning signs. And, of course, it would disrupt the narrative that we are safer under President Obama. I want to go right to our guest on this. Patrick Skinner is a senior associate with the Soufan Group, a strategic intelligence consultancy, and a former case officer with the CIA. He has extensive experience in counterterrorism. Explain this to me, Patrick. Why are we making this more complicated than it is? You don't have to devolve into conspiracy theories. You just have to admit what everyone can plainly see. This is a terrorist attack.
Yeah, I'm kind of unsure about the timeline and why. I mean, I understand at the beginning why the story would shift as information became more accurate or it was dismissed. But yeah, I don't see the advantage of saying that we've wasted billions of dollars of aid and the foreign policy is muddled, so they were killed by a mob, instead of we missed a couple indications and then they were killed by a professional team. I don't see the advantage in either one, actually. But
no, and no one's suggesting that the Obama administration should have been very quick to fill in the holes or should have revealed all of their cards. I don't think any of us would have minded had the administration's position been, we are investigating this and we'll let you know the details when we have them and when it's appropriate. But that's not what they did. They went out with explanations that have changed and that have sort of flied in the face of everything else we know. Yeah, I agree. The movie, I mean, $50 movie trailer, not even a movie, but the trailer of the movie was obviously not the cause of a 4 RPG attack. They had mortars hitting their 2 different spots. It was pretty coordinated and sophisticated, and the people on the ground fought off as best they could. But it was clearly not instigated by a movie. Right.
Hey, Patrick, Buck here. I wanted to ask you about this because just based on the press reports, it seems that at first they were saying there was a protest, and they gave some rough numbers. They said there were a couple of hundred people at the consulate. And then they said, well, actually, obviously there was an attack at the consulate and an attack at a secondary location. Now they've since said that there was not, in fact, a protest, and that this meant, but they're not giving numbers of attackers. So to me, as I look at this, I think just based upon what they've told us, this sounds more like an armed mob, a militia on the march targeting our consulate than it does a terrorist cell, 5, 10 guys, which it seemed like they were leaning towards leaving that out there for people to believe. But the numbers don't add up otherwise. How could it not be that a lot of these individuals that were initially supposed to be protesters at the embassy were actually a part of this assault?
Yeah, I mean, again, can't explain the 9-day gap between what's obvious and evidently self-transparent to us and others. But everybody in Libya, especially in Benghazi, is walking around with AKs and RPGs. I mean, they're not dime a dozen, but they're a dime a quarter probably. And so I can understand that there might be a hesitancy to say there were that many people. But once you started interviewing the survivors and the Libyan government came in forward and said it, it would be clear that it was not a protest, that these people were surrounding this consulate, which is not that big an area anyway. Yeah, it was almost like that somebody said, I mean, this is speculation, but the Egypt thing happened before that. And it was such a huge story and a huge mob. And the reason was because of the video. And that was true in Egypt, evidently. And then the thing in Libya happened quickly after that. And so it was almost as if it was an assumption. And then that the people there, well, then it must have been because the worldwide protests that we've seen before with other insults to the Prophet Muhammad.
So, Essie, you're asking the question, why? I mean, we knew last Friday that we were not getting the real story. Yeah. And that when the ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice, was on television on Sunday, that what she was saying on all of these Sunday shows was false and enraging, frankly. Yes. So now here we have these facts coming out. Is it just pure politics here that we have a militia possibly associated with al-Qaeda attacking the consulate on 9/11 in Libya that led to the murder of a United States ambassador? And let's remember that this is a country that we became militarily involved in liberating to get rid of Gaddafi for partly the express purpose of protecting Benghazi. Right. And now in the very city that we were supposed to be preventing a genocide, we have our UN ambassador killed. Do we think that basically President Obama does not want this sticking to him?
Before you answer that,
of course.
let me say this, Amy. I don't think that the administration's stories have yet been disavowed. When I look at these quotes, and I see Jay Carney's, I think it is self-evident at this point that it was a terrorist attack. Or the CNN quote, at the end, or I can't remember which one of these, where they admit again that it's a terrorist attack.
Matt Olson.
Rice's story has always been that the attack was like a remora following a shark, that the protest preceded it and terrorists took advantage of that situation. That still flies in the face of information we have that suggests this was pre-planned. But what I'm telling you is,
and it was about a
they
film.
have
Don't
not
forget, it was
yet
about a film.
disavowed that position.
The administration's response is amateur hour on this, but it's amateur hour not out of ignorance. I think it's out of politics, and it's for the reason that you just laid out, Amy, and the reason you pushed to SE, which is that this is clearly a huge black eye for the administration.